You wore that on purpose, he said, and those 5 words shattered everything she thought she knew about survival. 3 weeks after burying his wife, Noah Reed wasn't looking for salvation on that beach. And Elena Moore, standing in red like a warrior, wasn't looking to be saved. But when a broken widower and a woman rebuilding herself from ashes locked eyes that morning, they triggered something neither expected, a collision that would tear open old wounds, bring a dangerous man back from the past, and force them both to choose between the safety of loneliness and the terrifying possibility of love. Stay until the end, hit that like button, and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. The morning Noah Reed decided to stop counting days was the morning he saw her. 23 days since the funeral. 23 mornings of waking to an empty bed that still smelled faintly of lavender and grief. 23 breakfast routines where his daughter Lily asked questions he couldn't answer about why mommy wasn't coming back. 23 nights of staring at ceiling cracks, mapping his failures in the darkness. He'd stopped saying, "We'll get through this," because it felt like a lie. Instead, he'd started taking Lily to the beach at dawn, not for healing or closure or any of the therapeutic bullshit the grief counselor suggested, but simply because the hours needed to pass somehow, and the ocean was louder than his thoughts. The North Carolina coast in October was brutal in its beauty, cold enough to keep the tourists away, wild enough to match the chaos in his chest. Noah walked these shores with Lily's small hand in his, her princess rain boots squelching in the wet sand, her questions mercifully focused on seashells and seagulls instead of death and heaven. "Daddy, look! A big one!" Lily released his hand to chase a retreating wave, her laugh cutting through the wind. 7 years old and still young enough to find joy in small things. Noah envied that. The resilience of children, their ability to exist fully in a moment without the weight of before and after crushing them. He watched her dance with the surf, his heart simultaneously full and fractured, when his gaze drifted up the beach and stopped. A woman stood alone by the water's edge, maybe 50 yards away. Barefoot. Motionless. Facing the ocean like she was waiting for it to speak. She wore a red bikini. Not beach casual, not practical for the October chill. This was intentional, vivid against the gray morning, stark against pale skin, defiant against the season itself. Noah looked away immediately, then looked back. He wasn't a creep, wasn't the kind of man who ogled women on beaches. But something about the scene pulled at him, not the body, though she was beautiful in an understated way, but the posture, the stillness, the way she stood there like she was daring the world to notice her while simultaneously not giving a damn if it did. Lily was building a sandcastle now, temporarily occupied. Noah found himself watching the woman in red trying to decode what he was seeing, confidence or armor, invitation or warning. As if sensing his attention, the woman turned her head. Their eyes met across the distance. Noah didn't look away. He should have. A widower with a young daughter, staring at a stranger in a bikini at 7 in the morning, it looked exactly as questionable as it was. But something in her gaze held him there, challenging him to flinch first. She started walking toward him. Noah's pulse quickened irrationally. He glanced at Lily, who was now thoroughly absorbed in her sand engineering project, then back at the approaching woman. She moved with purpose, her stride neither hurried nor hesitant, and as she got closer, Noah registered details. Dark hair pulled back in a messy knot, minimal makeup, a scar on her left shoulder, eyes that were evaluating him as thoroughly as he'd been evaluating her. When she stopped about 10 feet away, close enough for conversation, but far enough to maintain clear personal boundaries, she crossed her arms. "Eyes are up here," she said. Her voice was measured, practiced. Like she'd said this before and knew exactly how to deliver it, not with anger, but with a precision that cut deeper. Noah held her gaze steadily. He could have apologized. Should have, probably, but something in him resisted the automatic social script. "You wore that on purpose," he replied calmly. The ocean crashed behind her. A gull cried overhead. Lily hummed to herself, oblivious. For a moment the woman didn't react. Then something shifted in her expression. Not offense, not amusement, but something closer to recognition, like she'd been testing for a specific response, and he'd given it. "Maybe I did," she said slowly. Does that make it okay to stare? No, Noah admitted. But it makes it honest. You wanted to be seen. I saw you. Her eyebrows lifted slightly. That's a hell of an assumption about what I want. Is it wrong? She studied him for another long moment, and Noah found himself being catalogued, assessed, filed away in whatever system she used to categorize men. He wondered what category he'd land in, wondered if it mattered. Finally, she uncrossed her arms. Not entirely wrong, she conceded, but not for the reasons you probably think. Before Noah could respond, Lily's voice rang out. Daddy, come see. He glanced back at his daughter, then at the woman. I should... Yeah, she said, already turning away. You should. She walked back toward the water without another word, and Noah stood there, feeling like he'd just had a conversation in a language he didn't fully understand but desperately wanted to learn. Daddy! Lily called again, more insistent. Noah went to inspect the sandcastle, an elaborate structure with a moat and shell decorations, and gave it the enthusiastic praise it deserved, but his mind was still on the woman in red, now back in her original position by the surf, still and watchful once more. Who was that lady? Lily asked, following his gaze. I don't know, sweetheart. She's pretty. She is, Noah agreed quietly. Is she nice? Noah considered the question. I'm not sure yet. Can I go show her my castle? Let's not bother her right now. Lily accepted this with a shrug and returned to her construction project. Noah sat in the sand beside her, his jeans getting wet, his mind refusing to settle. He told himself it meant nothing, a strange interaction with a stranger on a beach. Tomorrow they'd walk a different section of shoreline. He'd probably never see her again. But when he glanced back toward the water one more time, the woman was looking at him too. And this time she smiled, not politely, not flirtatiously, but like someone who hadn't expected to be understood and didn't quite know what to do with the feeling. The next morning, Noah took Lily to a different part of the beach. He told himself it was for variety, that Lily would enjoy exploring new territory, that it had nothing to do with avoiding or seeking anyone. They found her anyway. Same red bikini, same solitary stance, different stretch of sand but identical posture, facing the ocean, barefoot, still. It's the pretty lady, Lily announced with the subtlety of a car alarm. The woman heard. She turned, saw them, and something like amusement flickered across her face. Small beach, she called out. Noah walked closer, Lily skipping ahead. Or predictable walkers. Which is it? Haven't decided yet. She smiled at that, a real one this time, reaching her eyes. I'm Elena. Noah, this is Lily. Hi, Lily. Elena crouched down to Lily's level with an ease that suggested she was used to children. That's a great jacket. Lily beamed, modeling her purple windbreaker with a spin. It has pockets. The best jackets always do. Elena stood, her eyes finding Noah's again. Same time tomorrow? It was a challenge and an invitation wrapped together. Noah knew he should decline. He had a daughter to raise, grief to process, a life to rebuild without complications. The smart move was to nod politely, walk away, maintain his isolation. Same time, he heard himself say. Elena's smile deepened. Wear something warmer. October's not bikini weather for everyone. Why do you? The question slipped out before Noah could stop it. Her expression shifted, something vulnerable flickering beneath the surface before the armor slid back into place. Maybe I'll tell you sometime. She walked away before he could respond, leaving Noah standing there with more questions than he'd started with and a strange, unsettling anticipation for tomorrow. Lily tugged his hand. I like her, Daddy. Yeah, Noah murmured, watching Elena's figure recede down the beach. Me too. By the end of the first week, they had a routine. 7 a.m., the same stretch of beach. Elena in red, Noah and Lily in whatever the morning provided. They'd talk for 10, maybe 15 minutes. Nothing deep, nothing personal. Weather, tides, Lily's ongoing sand architecture projects, surface-level exchanges that somehow felt weighted with everything they weren't saying. Noah learned that Elena was staying in a rental house 2 doors down from his. that she'd been there for 6 weeks, that she had a daughter too, though he never saw her on these morning walks. Elena learned that Noah was a carpenter, that his wife had died of an aneurysm, that Lily was obsessed with finding the perfect sand dollar. What they didn't talk about: why Elena wore red every morning, like a uniform. Why Noah kept coming back despite his better judgment. Why they both seemed to be using the beach as a refuge from something they couldn't name. On the 8th morning, everything changed. Noah and Lily arrived to find Elena's usual spot empty. He told himself it didn't matter, that he had no claim to her time or presence, that they were barely even friends. But disappointment settled in his chest anyway. "Where's Elena?" Lily asked, voicing the question Noah wouldn't let himself speak. "I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe she's sleeping in." They walked the beach as usual, but the morning felt flatter somehow. Noah recognized the feeling. It was want and desire, and the dangerous beginning of dependence. All things he couldn't afford right now. They were heading back when Lily suddenly broke away, running toward a figure sitting on the porch of one of the rental houses. "Elena!" Noah's heart jumped. He followed, finding Elena sitting on weathered wooden steps in jeans and a hoodie, hands wrapped around a coffee mug, looking exhausted. "Hey, Lilybug!" Elena's voice was rough, like she'd been crying or hadn't slept. "Sorry I missed the beach." "Are you okay?" Lily asked with the blunt concern of children. "Yes, sweetie, just tired." Lily seemed satisfied with this and immediately launched into a detailed description of the hermit crab she'd found that morning. Elena listened with admirable attention, considering she looked like she was barely holding herself together. Noah hung back, uncertain. The beach had clear boundaries, neutral territory, casual encounters, easy exits. This felt different, more intimate. He was on her porch, seeing her without her armor, and every instinct said he should politely extract himself and his daughter. But Elena's eyes found his over Lily's head, and something in that look, raw and unguarded, kept him rooted. When Lily paused for breath, Elena spoke quietly. "I have coffee if you want some." It wasn't really about coffee. They both knew that. "Okay," Noah said. Elena disappeared inside, returning with 2 mugs, one black, one with cream. She handed Noah the cream without asking, somehow knowing. They sat on the steps while Lily explored the small yard, and for several minutes, neither of them spoke. Finally, Elena broke the silence. "I have a daughter, Mia. She's 6. Noah waited, sensing there was more. "She's inside watching cartoons. I don't bring her to the beach with me because—" Elena stared at her coffee. "Because those mornings are mine. The only time I get to just be. You don't have to explain. I want to." She looked at him then, and Noah saw something fierce and frightened in her eyes. "You asked why I wear the bikini. You don't have to. My ex-husband spent 8 years convincing me I was unattractive, unfeminine, that my body was something to hide, to be ashamed of, that no one would ever want me, that I should be grateful he stayed despite how disappointing I was." Noah's jaw tightened. "Elena, I wear it because fuck him." Her voice was steady, cold. "I wear it because I'm done hiding. I wear it because every morning I put it on is another morning I choose myself instead of his voice in my head. It's not confidence, it's defiance." The honesty was brutal and beautiful. Noah set down his coffee, choosing his next words carefully. "The first morning I saw you," he said quietly, "I didn't think you looked like you were trying to be seen by anyone. I thought you looked like you were trying to see yourself." Elena's breath caught. She turned away, but not before Noah caught the shine of tears. "I'm sorry," he said. "I shouldn't have—" "No." Her voice was thick. "That's exactly it. That's exactly what it is." Lily chose that moment to come running back, holding a dandelion like it was treasure. "For you," she announced, presenting it to Elena. Elena took it with trembling hands, and when she smiled at Lily, something in Noah's chest cracked open, some sealed-off chamber he'd built after his wife died, some protective wall between himself and the possibility of feeling again. "Thank you, sweetheart," Elena whispered. "It's perfect." Lily, mission accomplished, returned to her explorations. Elena twirled the dandelion between her fingers, not looking at Noah. "I should go," Noah said, even though every part of him wanted to stay. Yeah. Elena stood, setting her mug down. Same time tomorrow? It was the same question she'd asked that first day, but it landed differently now. Heavier, more weighted with everything that was building between them. Same time, Noah confirmed. As he and Lily walked away, Noah felt Elena's eyes on his back. He didn't turn around. If he did, he might not leave at all. That night, lying in bed, Noah stared at the ceiling and admitted the truth to himself. He was falling. Not in love, not yet, maybe not ever, but falling nonetheless into something dangerous and necessary, something he'd sworn he wouldn't let himself want again. And the terrifying part was, he wasn't sure he wanted to stop. Well, the morning stretched into weeks. October bled into November. The beach got colder, but Elena never stopped wearing red, and Noah never stopped showing up. They talked more now, real conversations that ventured beyond surface pleasantries. Elena told him about her ex, Caleb Moore, in careful pieces, how he'd been charming at first, then controlling, then cruel in ways that left no visible bruises, how he'd isolated her from friends, convinced her she was crazy, made her doubt her own memories and perceptions until she didn't trust herself at all, how she'd finally left when she realized Mia was starting to flinch. Noah shared his own story, how his wife Sarah had collapsed in the kitchen one morning while making pancakes, how Lily had been the one to find her, how the doctors said it was instant, painless, a congenital defect no one could have predicted, how knowing it wasn't his fault didn't make it hurt less. They swapped scars like currency, building trust through shared damage. The morning Noah first met Mia, he understood everything. He and Lily had just arrived at the beach when he spotted Elena walking with a small, dark-haired girl who moved like she was trying to take up less space than she occupied. Mia kept her eyes down, her shoulders slightly hunched, her hand gripping her mother's like a lifeline. "That's Mia," Lily announced, and before Noah could stop her, she was running toward them. Noah followed more slowly, watching the interaction. Lily was all enthusiasm and openness, chattering about sandcastles and shells, but Mia barely responded, just small nods, barely audible ahas, eyes that wouldn't quite meet anyone's gaze. Elena's expression was carefully neutral, but Noah saw the tension in her jaw, the way her hand tightened protectively on Mia's shoulder. "Hi, Mia," Noah said gently, crouching down to her level. "I'm Noah. Your mom and I are friends." Mia glanced at him briefly, then away. Lily's been wanting to show someone her sandcastle. Would you maybe want to help her work on it?" Mia looked at her mother uncertainly. Elena nodded encouragement. "It's okay, baby. Just stay where I can see you." The girls headed toward the wet sand, Lily's chatter a stark contrast to Mia's silence. Noah stood beside Elena, both of them watching their daughters with the hypervigilance of parents who knew the world could be cruel. "She used to be so outgoing," Elena said quietly. "Before. Now it's like she's afraid of her own shadow." "Lily did that too," Noah offered. "After Sarah died. It took months before she'd let me out of her sight." "Does it get better?" "Yeah, slowly, with patience and safety and time." Elena's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "I'm trying so hard to give her that, but I don't know if I know how anymore. I'm so broken myself. How am I supposed to fix her?" Noah wanted to reach for her hand, but didn't. "You're not broken. You're healing. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yeah. Broken things stay shattered. Healing things are coming back together, even if the cracks still show." Elena looked at him then, really looked, with an intensity that made his breath catch. "How are you this understanding?" "I'm not. I'm just as lost as you are. We're just lost together, I guess." A small smile broke through her sadness. "Lost together. I like that." Down the beach, Lily was teaching Mia how to dig the moat for their castle, and slowly, so slowly, Mia was starting to engage. Not fully, not enthusiastically, but enough. A small smile, a quiet laugh, the beginning of something like ease. Elena saw it too. Noah watched her face transform with hope and fear in equal measure, the terrified joy of a mother seeing her child heal, knowing how fragile that healing was, how easily it could be undone. "Thank you," she whispered. "I didn't do anything." You showed up. You kept showing up. That's not nothing. Noah didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching their daughters build something new from sand and salt water and the fragile trust of children learning to feel safe again. It was the most intimate moment they'd shared yet, not touching, barely speaking, but present with each other in a way that felt like coming home. 2 weeks later, Elena invited them to dinner. Her hand shook slightly when she asked, betraying nerves she tried to hide. It doesn't have to be weird, just, I thought it might be nice, for the girls, and I make a mean lasagna. Noah knew what she was really asking. Can I let you closer? Can I trust this? Can I want something again without it destroying me? We'd love to, he said simply. Relief and terror flickered across her face in equal measure. Saturday, 6 o'clock? We'll be there. Saturday arrived with Noah feeling inexplicably nervous. He showered twice, changed shirts 3 times, caught himself checking his reflection like a teenager before a first date. This wasn't a date. It was dinner. With kids present. Entirely platonic. Except it didn't feel platonic. It felt like something tipping forward, gravity pulling them toward each other whether they were ready or not. Lily wore her favorite dress, purple with sparkles, and carried a drawing she'd made for Mia. Noah brought wine and flowers, then second-guessed both choices, then decided to stop overthinking and just show up. Elena answered the door in jeans and a simple blue sweater, her hair down for the first time since he'd known her, and Noah forgot how to form words for several seconds. Hi, she said, smiling nervously. Hi, you look beautiful, different, terrifying. Nice. Thanks, you too. Come in. The rental house was small but warm, decorated with the impersonal furniture of vacation properties, but made homier by scattered kid artwork and worn books. Mia sat on the couch watching something animated, and when Lily bounded over to join her with her gift, Mia actually smiled, full and genuine and heartbreaking. Elena saw Noah notice. She's been looking forward to this all week, she said quietly. First time she's been excited about anything in months. Dinner was exactly as promised. Excellent lasagna, garlic bread, salad. The girls chatted more easily now, Lily's exuberance slowly coaxing Mia out of her shell. Noah and Elena played at adult conversation but kept getting distracted by their daughters, by each other, by the strange domesticity of it all. After dinner, they sent the girls to play in Mia's room and sat on the porch with the wine Noah had brought. The November night was cold and clear, stars scattered across the darkness like broken glass catching light. This is nice, Elena said softly. Scary, but nice. Yeah. I haven't done this since... She trailed off, then started again. Caleb made sure I stopped having friends over. Started fights if I tried. Eventually it was easier to just not. Noah's grip tightened on his wine glass. He'd heard enough pieces of Elena's story to want to find Caleb more and introduce his face to a brick wall. But anger wouldn't help her, so he pushed it down. You're allowed to have good things, he said instead. You know that, right? Elena's laugh was hollow. Knowing it and believing it are different things. Then I'll believe it for you until you can. She turned to look at him, her eyes wide and vulnerable. Why are you so kind to me? Why wouldn't I be? Because I'm a mess. Because I come with baggage and trauma and a kid who's going to need therapy for years. Because any sane person would see me as a disaster waiting to happen and run in the opposite direction. Noah set down his wine and shifted to face her fully. You want to know what I see when I look at you? Elena shook her head, but he continued anyway. I see someone who survived something that should have broken her. I see a mother who's fighting like hell to protect her daughter, even when she's scared out of her mind. I see a woman who wears a red bikini in October because fuck anyone who tried to make her small. I see someone brave and honest and real. And yeah, damaged, because who isn't? But not broken. Never broken. Tears spilled down Elena's cheeks. Noah, I'm not him, Noah said fiercely. Whatever he made you believe about yourself, whatever lies he told, whatever ways he hurt you, I'm not him, and I'll keep showing up and proving that for as long as it takes. Elena was fully crying now, silent tears that spoke of years of held-back pain. Noah wanted to hold her but didn't, waited for permission, for invitation, for any sign of what she needed. She gave it by leaning into him, her head finding his shoulder, her body shaking with sobs. Noah wrapped his arms around her carefully, like she was something precious and breakable, and let her cry. Inside, they could hear the girls laughing. Outside, the ocean whispered its endless rhythm. And between them, something fundamental shifted, from strangers to friends to something neither of them had words for yet, but both desperately wanted to protect. When Elena finally pulled back, her eyes were red but clearer somehow. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "Of what?" "Of wanting this. Of wanting you. Of building something and having it taken away again." Noah's heart hammered against his ribs. "I'm terrified too." "Of what?" "Same things, plus a few extras involving how completely out of my depth I am, and how badly I could fuck this up." Elena laughed, surprised and genuine. "We're a real pair of disasters, aren't we?" "The best kind." She kissed him then, sudden and uncertain and perfect. It lasted maybe 3 seconds before she pulled back, eyes wide with shock at her own boldness. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have—" Noah kissed her back, cutting off the apology. This one lasted longer, deeper, tasting of wine and salt and the terrifying possibility of hope. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Elena was smiling. Okay, that was... Yeah. We should probably talk about it, set boundaries, take things slow. All of that. Okay. Neither of them moved. They sat there, hands clasped, foreheads touching, breathing the same air and trying to figure out how to want something again without the fear eating them alive. Inside, Lily called out, "Daddy, can Mia come to our house tomorrow?" The spell broke. They pulled apart, smiling sheepishly. "Tomorrow," Elena said. "We'll figure it out tomorrow." "Tomorrow," Noah agreed. But as he gathered Lily and said goodnight, as Elena walked them to the door with Mia attached to her side, as they exchanged one last loaded look before he left, Noah knew tomorrow was already here. They were already in this, whatever this was, falling forward into unknown territory with no map and no guarantees. And for the first time since Sarah died, Noah felt something besides grief. He felt alive. The morning after the kiss, Noah woke at 5 a.m., with his heart racing and no clear idea whether he was excited or terrified. Probably both. He lay in the pre-dawn darkness, Sarah's side of the bed still untouched after all these weeks, and felt the guilt crash over him like a wave he'd been expecting but wasn't prepared for. He'd kissed another woman. He'd wanted to kiss another woman. And the worst part, the part that made his stomach twist, was that it had felt right. "Daddy?" Lily's voice came from the doorway, small and uncertain. "You okay?" Noah sat up, forcing his expression into something resembling normal. "Yeah, sweetheart, just woke up early. Come here." She climbed into bed beside him, her small body warm and solid against his side. "I had fun at Mia's house." "Me too." "Do you like Elena?" The question was innocent, but it landed like an accusation. Noah chose his words carefully. "I do. She's a good friend." "Mommy would like her too," Lily said matter-of-factly. "She was always nice to your friends." Noah's throat tightened. "Yeah, she was. Is it okay that I like Mia, even though Mommy's gone?" The question broke something in Noah's chest. He pulled Lily closer, pressing a kiss to her hair. "Of course it is, baby. Mommy would want you to have friends, would want you to be happy. Is it okay that you like Elena, even though Mommy's gone?" Noah closed his eyes, 7 years old and already asking the questions he couldn't answer himself. "I don't know," he admitted quietly. "I'm still figuring that out." Lily seemed satisfied with this honesty. She snuggled deeper into his side, her breathing evening out as she drifted back to sleep. Noah held her and watched the sun rise through the window, painting the room in shades of gold and gray, and tried to reconcile the man he'd been with the man he was becoming. By 7, they were dressed and heading to the beach. Noah told himself it was routine, habit, nothing to do with wanting to see Elena, but his pulse quickened as they approached their usual meeting spot, and disappointment flooded through him when she wasn't there. She appeared 10 minutes later, walking fast, her hair windblown and her expression harried. No red bikini today, just running clothes and sneakers. She looked frazzled and human and beautiful. "Sorry," she said breathlessly. "Mia had a nightmare. Took forever to settle her back down." "Is she okay?" "She is now. She's with a neighbor, Mrs. Chen from 3 doors down. Sweet lady who doesn't ask too many questions." Elena's eyes met his, and something passed between them, acknowledgement, uncertainty, the unspoken weight of last night. "About yesterday." "Hi, Elena." Lily bounded over, oblivious to the tension. "Can Mia come play today?" Elena's expression softened. "Maybe this afternoon, if that's okay with your dad." "Can she, Daddy? Please?" Noah nodded, grateful for the interruption. "Sure, sweetheart. Why don't you go find some shells? We'll catch up in a minute." Lily raced off, and suddenly it was just the two of them, standing in the morning cold with the ocean roaring behind them and everything from last night hanging between them like fog. "I don't regret it," Elena said quietly. "The kiss. I don't regret it, but I'm scared of what it means." "Yeah, me too. I've been on my own for a year now, learning how to just be me again, and I'm not sure I'm ready to be someone's anything yet." Noah understood. He'd been thinking the same thing all night. "We don't have to rush this, whatever this is. What if we're just two lonely people mistaking proximity for connection?" "Are we?" Elena looked at him for a long moment. "No," she admitted. "I don't think we are, and that's what scares me. So what do we do?" "I don't know. Be careful, be honest, keep showing up and see what happens." Noah reached for her hand, and when she didn't pull away, he laced their fingers together. "I can do that." They stood like that for a while, watching Lily hunt for shells in the distance, feeling the weight and possibility of what they were building. It wasn't easy or simple, but it was real, and right now that felt like enough. When Elena's phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Chen, they walked back together, still holding hands, taking the first tentative steps into territory neither of them had mapped, but both were willing to explore. The afternoon playdate turned into dinner, which turned into both girls falling asleep on the couch mid-movie, which turned into Noah and Elena talking until midnight about everything and nothing, their childhoods, their marriages, their fears, their hopes. They didn't kiss again, but they sat close enough that their knees touched, and when Noah finally left with a sleeping Lily in his arms, Elena's goodnight felt weighted with promise. This became their new rhythm. Beach mornings, afternoon playdates, evening conversations that stretched longer each time. They were careful, never in front of the girls, never rushing, always checking in. But something was growing between them, undeniable and terrifying and necessary. 3 weeks into this careful dance, Mia ran up to Noah on the beach holding a perfect sand dollar. She'd been getting braver with him, small smiles, tentative questions, moments where she'd forget to be afraid. But this was different. She came to him directly, her eyes bright with excitement instead of finding her mother first. "Noah, look what I found." He knelt in the sand, examining the treasure she held. It was flawless. No cracks, no chips, the delicate star pattern on top perfectly preserved. "Mia, this is incredible. Do you know how rare it is to find one that's not broken?" She shook her head, hanging on his words. "Most of them break before they ever reach shore. The waves are too rough, the journey's too long. But this one made it through everything and stayed whole. That makes it really special." Mia studied the sand dollar with new reverence. Like it survived? Exactly like that. She looked up at him then, and Noah saw it. The parallels she was drawing, the meaning she was finding. This fragile thing that had been through chaos and somehow remained intact. This small miracle of survival. "Can I keep it forever?" she asked. "Absolutely. But we should rinse it in fresh water when we get home and let it dry carefully. I can show you how if you want." Mia's smile was pure sunshine. "Okay." She ran off to show her mother and Lily, and when Elena caught Noah's eye from across the beach, her expression held something he hadn't seen before. Gratitude mixed with something deeper, something that looked dangerously close to falling. From that day forward, Mia gravitated toward Noah naturally. She'd ask him questions while he worked on the porch repairs he'd started doing to keep his hands busy. She'd sit beside him during movie nights, her small body trustingly close. She'd call for him when she found something interesting on the beach, her voice losing its hesitance bit by bit. Elena watched it all with conflicted eyes, grateful her daughter was healing, terrified of what it would mean when this inevitably ended. Because things always ended, didn't they? That's what her marriage to Caleb had taught her. That safety was temporary. That trust was a weapon people used against you. One evening, after the girls were asleep and Noah was helping Elena clean up dinner, she finally voiced her fears. "What happens when you realize this is too much?" she asked quietly, scrubbing a plate with more force than necessary. "When you wake up and decide you don't want the baggage?" Noah dried the plate she handed him, choosing his words carefully. "What makes you think I'll do that?" "Because everyone does. Because Mia's getting attached, and you're going to break her heart, and I won't be able to fix it." "Elena, no, you need to hear this." She turned to face him, her hand still dripping soapy water. Caleb spent years breaking her down, making her afraid. And she's finally starting to feel safe again, and if you leave, I'm not leaving. You say that now? I mean it. Noah set down the towel. I know what it looks like from your side. I know he made you promises he broke. But I'm not him, and I need you to start believing that. How can I? How can I trust anything when everything I've trusted before turned out to be a lie? It was the rawest she'd been, and Noah recognized the panic in her voice, the fear of someone who'd been burned reaching for fire again. You can't, he admitted. Not right away. Trust isn't something I can demand or you can force. It's something we build day by me showing up and proving I mean what I say. And if I can't get there, if I'm too broken, then we'll figure it out together. But Elena, you have to give us a chance. You have to let me prove myself instead of waiting for me to fail. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I don't know how to do that. Start small. Tomorrow, when I say I'll be at the beach, believe me. When I say I'm not going anywhere, try to hold on to that for just one day. And then the next day, we'll try again. She nodded shakily, and Noah pulled her into a hug, just holding her while she cried, letting her release the fear and pain she'd been carrying alone for so long. When she finally pulled back, her eyes were red but clearer. I'm so scared of wanting this, she whispered. I know, me too. But I do want this, want you, even though it terrifies me. Noah cupped her face gently. Then we'll be terrified together. She kissed him then, not urgent or passionate, but tender and honest, a kiss that felt like a promise being made despite all the fear. When they broke apart, Elena managed a shaky smile. One day at a time? One day at a time. The next morning, Noah was at the beach at 7 a.m., just like he'd promised. And Elena was there too, in her red bikini, smiling when she saw him like she'd been half afraid he wouldn't show. It was a small victory, but it mattered. Each kept promise, each moment of reliability, slowly building something stronger than either of them alone. The girls became inseparable. Mia bloomed under Lily's fearless friendship, finding her voice again in increments. Lily, who'd been carrying her own grief, seemed lighter with someone to care for. They built elaborate sand cities, created imaginary worlds, taught each other playground songs and secret handshakes. Noah and Elena learned to be careful, never kissing in front of the kids, never assuming the future, never pushing faster than Elena could handle. But the boundaries were getting harder to maintain. Dinner at Elena's became dinner at Noah's. Movie nights became breakfast mornings. Separate houses became a technicality. Mrs. Chen, the neighbor who occasionally watched Mia, started giving Elena knowing looks and asking pointed questions about that nice widower. Elena deflected, but the truth was becoming obvious to anyone paying attention. They were building a family. Nobody said it out loud. The word felt too big, too presumptuous, too terrifying. But that's what was happening in the spaces between their careful boundaries. Two fractured families finding ways to fit together, forming something new from the broken pieces. 4 weeks into December, Noah found Mia sitting on his porch steps looking dejected. Elena was inside helping Lily with homework, and Mia had slipped out without either of them noticing. Hey kiddo, what's wrong? Mia looked up with eyes too old for 6 years. My dad called. Noah's stomach dropped. He sat beside her slowly. What did he say? Mommy wouldn't let me talk to him. She said he had to talk to her lawyer first, but I could hear him yelling through the phone. Mia's voice got smaller. He's coming back, isn't he? I don't know, sweetheart. I don't want to see him. The confession came out in a rush. Does that make me bad? No, not even a little bit. But he's my dad. Being someone's dad is more than biology, Noah said carefully. It's showing up, being safe, making someone feel loved. And if he didn't do those things, you're allowed to not want him around. Mia absorbed this quietly. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, Do you think you could be my dad? Noah's heart stopped. He looked at this small, brave girl who'd been through too much, who was asking for something he desperately wanted to give but had no right to promise. I think, he said slowly, I would be honored to be whatever you need me to be, but that's something I'd have to talk about with your mom, okay? And it might take some time. But you're not leaving. Not if I can help it. Mia leaned against his side and Noah wrapped an arm around her, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over his shoulders. This wasn't just about him and Elena anymore. It was about these kids who were building something too, a safety neither of them had before, a trust that was slowly replacing fear. When Elena found them like that 10 minutes later, she read the situation instantly. After Mia went back inside, she turned to Noah with terror in her eyes. He called, she said unnecessarily. Caleb, he wants to see Mia. Says he's coming next week. What did you tell him? To go through my lawyer, but Noah, her voice cracked. He's going to fight me. He's going to try to take her, and I don't know if I can stop him. Noah stood, pulling her close. Then we fight back, together. He has money, lawyers. He's been setting this up for months, I just know it. And you have me. You have documentation. You have a year of stability to show. We're not helpless here. Elena pulled back, searching his face. Why would you do this? Get involved in my mess? You have Lily to think about. Lily's already involved. She loves Mia like a sister. And I... He stopped, the words catching in his throat. You what? Noah took a breath. They'd been so careful, so measured, so afraid to name what was happening between them. But Caleb's threat changed everything. It required honesty. It required commitment. I love you, he said simply. I love you and I love Mia, and we're already a family in every way that matters. So if he's coming for you, he's coming for all of us. Elena stared at him, tears streaming down her face. Noah, you don't have to say it back. I'm not asking for that. I'm just telling you where I stand. I love you too, she whispered. I'm terrified and it's too soon and I don't know what I'm doing, but I love you too. He kissed her then, deep and certain, a kiss that felt like a promise being sealed. When they broke apart, Elena was smiling through her tears. 1 week, she said. He'll be here in 1 week. Then we have 1 week to prepare. They spent that week doing everything they could. Elena met with her lawyer, gathered documentation, built a case. Noah researched custody laws, talked to his own attorney, prepared himself for the fight ahead. They told the girls only what they needed to know, that Mia's father was coming to visit, that it might be confusing, that they were safe no matter what. Lily, wise beyond her years, asked Noah privately if Mia would have to leave. Not if we can help it, he promised. Good. Because she's my sister now. The casual certainty in her voice made Noah's eyes sting. Yeah, baby, she is. The night before Caleb was scheduled to arrive, Noah and Elena sat on the beach after the girls were asleep. It was cold, too cold for the bikini, which Elena hadn't worn in weeks. Instead, she wore Noah's jacket, wrapped in his warmth, leaning against his side. Whatever happens tomorrow, she said quietly, thank you for this. For showing up. For not running. Where else would I be? Anywhere safer. Anywhere easier. Noah tilted her face up to his. I don't want easier. I want you. She kissed him like she was trying to memorize the moment, like she was afraid it might be their last. Noah held her tight, trying to transfer all his certainty, all his commitment, through touch alone. We're going to be okay, he murmured against her hair. Promise? He couldn't. The future was uncertain. Caleb was a wild card, and the legal system didn't always protect the right people. But he could promise this. I promise I'll fight like hell. I promise I'm not going anywhere. I promise you're not alone in this. Elena nodded against his chest, her tears soaking through his shirt. They stayed like that until the cold drove them inside, holding on to each other against the storm they knew was coming. The next morning dawned gray and hostile. Noah dropped Lily at school, then headed to Elena's house to wait with her. Mia was with Mrs. Chen. They decided she didn't need to be there for the initial confrontation. At 10 a.m., exactly when he'd said he'd arrive, a black SUV pulled up. Caleb Moore stepped out looking every inch the successful businessman, tailored suit, expensive watch, confident stride. He was handsome in a magazine ad way, polished and perfect, and Noah hated him on sight. Elena's hand found Noah's, her grip almost painful. I can't do this. Yes, you can. We're doing it together. Caleb's eyes locked on their joined hands, and something cold flashed across his face before his expression smoothed into practiced charm. He walked up the porch steps with the ease of someone who'd never doubted his welcome anywhere. Elena, he said smoothly, you look well. What do you want, Caleb? To see my daughter. Is that so unreasonable? After a year of no contact? Yes. His gaze slid to Noah, assessing and dismissive in one look. And who's this? New boyfriend already? Moving fast, aren't we? Noah felt Elena flinch, heard the implied insult, that she was cheap, easy, disloyal. All the things Caleb had probably called her during their marriage. This is Noah, Elena said, her voice steadier than her hand. And my personal life is none of your business. It is when it affects my daughter. Caleb's smile was razor sharp. Tell me, Noah, what are your intentions with my family? Noah met his eyes levelly. To protect them from people who hurt them. The mask slipped for just a second, pure rage before Caleb locked it down. Strong words. You don't even know me. I know enough. From Elena? And you believed her? She has a tendency to dramatize, to exaggerate, to make herself the victim. Noah felt Elena's grip tighten, felt her starting to fold under the familiar manipulation. He stepped forward slightly, putting himself between them. I'm going to say this once, Noah said quietly. You don't get to come here and rewrite history. You don't get to gaslight her anymore. And you sure as hell don't get to see Mia without going through proper legal channels. Caleb's expression turned ugly. You have no authority here, no legal standing. Elena, tell your guard dog to stand down so we can talk like adults. He speaks for me, Elena said, her voice finding strength. Everything you need to say, you can say to my lawyer. I'm here as a courtesy, Elena, to see my daughter. Don't make this ugly. You made it ugly when you spent 8 years tearing me apart. Your word against mine, sweetheart. And who do you think the courts will believe? Successful businessman trying to reconnect with his child, or unstable mother shacking up with some random guy months after fleeing without cause? The threat was clear. Noah saw Elena wavering, saw the years of conditioning telling her Caleb was right. She was nothing. She'd lose. Get off our property, Noah said flatly. Now. Our property? It's a rental, hero. And last I checked, your name's not on the lease. Caleb turned back to Elena, his voice dropping to something intimate and cruel. This is what you've been reduced to? Hiding behind some widow with a savior complex? I almost feel sorry for you. Elena was crying now, silent tears she was fighting to hide. Noah wanted to physically throw Caleb off the porch, but knew that's exactly what he was trying to provoke. A scene, evidence of instability, something to use in court. Instead, Noah pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police, BT. You have 30 seconds to leave voluntarily. On what grounds? Trespassing, harassment, take your pick. Caleb's laugh was genuine and chilling. This isn't over, Elena. I'll see my daughter, and when I do, I'll make sure she knows exactly what kind of mother abandons her family for the first guy who pays her attention. He walked back to his SUV with the same confident stride, but as he opened the door, he looked back one more time. I'll see you in court, he called out. Bring your boyfriend. Let's see how committed he is when things get expensive. The SUV pulled away, leaving Noah and Elena standing on the porch in its wake. Elena was shaking, her breath coming in gasps, and Noah recognized a panic attack building. Hey, hey, look at me. Breathe with me. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. He walked her through it until her breathing evened out, until the shaking subsided to tremors. When she finally looked at him, her eyes held defeat. He's going to win, she whispered. He's going to take her, and there's nothing I can do. That's what he wants you to think. But Elena, he showed his hand today. He couldn't maintain the charming facade for 5 minutes. A judge will see through him. You don't know that. You don't know what he's capable of. Then we document everything. We build an airtight case. We fight. I'm so tired of fighting. Noah pulled her close, feeling her break against him. Then lean on me. Let me carry some of it. They stood like that until Elena's phone rang, Mrs. Chen asking if it was safe to bring Mia home. Noah watched Elena pull herself together with visible effort, watched her wipe her tears and steady her voice, watched her become the mother Mia needed even when she was falling apart inside. And he knew, with absolute certainty, that Caleb Moore had made a mistake today. He'd underestimated Elena. He'd underestimated what she'd built here. And most critically, he'd underestimated how far Noah would go to protect this family. The fight was just beginning, but they'd face it together, one day at a time. When Mia came home that afternoon, she took one look at her mother's face and knew. Children who'd lived with fear developed radar for it, could sense danger in the air like animals before a storm. She went very still, very quiet, retreating into that small, scared version of herself they'd worked so hard to coax out of hiding. He was here, wasn't he? Her voice was barely a whisper. Elena knelt down, trying to keep her own panic from bleeding into her daughter's. Yes, baby, but he's gone now, and you're safe. He wants to take me away. It wasn't a question. Somehow, 6-year-old Mia understood exactly what was happening, and that knowledge broke Elena's heart all over again. No child should have to carry this kind of fear. I won't let that happen, Elena promised. But Mia's eyes, too old, too knowing, held doubt that cut deeper than any of Caleb's words. Noah watched from the doorway as Mia wrapped herself around her mother, her small body rigid with tension. He wanted to fix this, to promise her everything would be okay, but he'd learned not to make promises he couldn't guarantee. Instead, he did what he could. Hey, Mia, he said gently, remember that sand dollar you found? The one that survived everything. She peeked at him from Elena's shoulder, nodded slightly. You're like that sand dollar. You've been through rough waters, but you're still here, still whole. And your mom and I, we're going to make sure you stay that way. But what if... No, what ifs right now. Right now, you're safe. Right now, you're home. That's what matters. Mia seemed to accept this, or at least stopped arguing. Elena carried her to the couch, and they spent the rest of the afternoon in a kind of holding pattern. Watching movies without seeing them, eating dinner without tasting it, going through the motions while fear hummed beneath everything. That night, after Mia finally fell asleep, Elena came to Noah's house. He'd been expecting her, had coffee waiting, and the door unlocked. She walked in without knocking, went straight to his arms, and stayed there for a long time without speaking. I need to tell you something, she finally said, her voice muffled against his chest. About why I'm really so scared. Noah guided her to the couch, kept his arm around her, and waited. The last time I tried to leave Caleb, before I actually left, he found out. He came home early from a business trip and found me packing. Elena's hands twisted in her lap. He didn't hit me. He never hit me. That would have been too obvious, too prosecutable. Instead, he took my phone, my keys, my credit cards, locked me in our bedroom for 3 days. Noah's jaw clenched, but he didn't interrupt. He told everyone I was sick, had groceries delivered, told his assistant I had the flu, and for 3 days he came home from work and sat outside that locked door and talked to me. Told me all the ways I'd fail on my own, how no one would believe me, how he'd make sure I never saw Mia again if I tried to leave, how courts always favor fathers with money and stable careers over unstable mothers with no job history and documented mental health issues. You have mental health issues? No. But I'd been seeing a therapist he'd convinced me I needed, kept detailed notes about my emotional instability and irrational behavior, built a paper trail just in case. Elena's laugh was bitter. That's what makes him so dangerous. He's smart, patient. He doesn't act on impulse. He plans. Noah absorbed this, understanding crystallizing. That's why you think he'll win. I know he'll try, and he's had a year to prepare, to build his case, to position himself as the concerned father trying to rescue his daughter from her unfit mother. She looked at Noah with eyes full of fear. What if he's right? What if I'm not enough to protect her? You are enough. And you're not alone anymore. But you heard him today? You have no legal standing. In court, you're just the boyfriend, the complication. He'll use you against me, make it look like I'm choosing a man over my daughter's stability. Noah had thought about this, had already started researching, had called his lawyer that afternoon. Then we changed that. Elena pulled back to look at him. What do you mean? Marry me. The words hung in the air between them, too big and too sudden and absolutely terrifying. Elena stared at him like he'd lost his mind. Noah, we can't, that's insane. Is it? We love each other. We're building a life together. The girls are already sisters in everything but paperwork. Why not make it official? Because marriage should be about love, not legal strategy. It is about love. It's also about protection and commitment and showing a judge that Mia has a stable two-parent household. Noah took her hands. I'm not suggesting we fake this, Elena. I'm saying let's do what we were already moving toward, just faster, because Caleb's forcing our hand, and I'll be damned if I let him use our relationship against you. Elena was crying now, torn between hope and terror. What if it ruins everything? What if we're not ready and we crash and burn and then Mia loses both of us? What if we don't? What if we're stronger than you think? This is crazy. We've known each other for 3 months. My parents got engaged after 6 weeks. They were married 43 years before my dad died. This is different. Why? Because you're scared? Because Caleb made you afraid to trust your own instincts? Noah's voice was gentle but firm. I'm not asking you to marry me tomorrow. I'm asking you to think about it, to consider that maybe, just maybe, we could be the thing that saves each other instead of the thing that breaks us. Elena closed her eyes, overwhelmed. I need time. Okay. But Elena, he waited until she looked at him. Time is something we might not have much of. Caleb's petition for visitation will probably be filed within days. Once that happens, everything gets complicated. I know, I need to think. Noah walked her home, kissed her goodnight on the porch, and watched her disappear inside. He understood her hesitation. Marriage was huge under normal circumstances, impossible under these, but he also knew what Caleb didn't, that Elena was stronger than she believed, braver than she thought, and capable of more than she'd been allowed to show. The petition came 2 days later. Caleb was requesting alternating weekends and shared holidays, claiming he'd been denied access to his daughter without cause. His lawyer's letter painted Elena as unstable and vindictive, a mother who'd fled with the child to punish him for the marriage's failure. Elena's lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia Chen, read through it with a practiced eye. It's standard procedure, aggressive but not unusual. He's positioning himself as the victim. Can he win? Elena asked, her voice small. Partial custody? Possibly, if we don't build a strong counter case. Full custody? Not likely, but I've seen stranger things happen. Patricia looked at Noah, who'd insisted on attending the meeting. Your presence complicates things. The stability you provide helps, but it also gives him ammunition to claim she moved on too quickly. What if we were married? Noah asked bluntly. Patricia's eyebrows rose. That would change the dynamics considerably. Two-parent household, stable income, established routine. It would counter his claims of instability. But I have to ask, are you considering marriage as a legal strategy or a genuine commitment? Both, Noah said before Elena could answer. I love her. I love Mia. This just moves up our timeline. Patricia studied them both carefully. The court will scrutinize that. If it looks like a marriage of convenience, it could backfire. It's not convenient, Elena said quietly. It's terrifying, but it's real. Noah's heart jumped. He turned to her, searching her face. Elena, I've been thinking about what you said, about being stronger together. about not letting Caleb dictate our choices. She took his hand. I'm still scared, but I'm more scared of losing Mia. And if marrying you gives us a better chance of keeping her safe, then yes, let's do it. Patricia looked between them. I need you both to be very clear about this. Marriage won't guarantee anything. Caleb can still petition for custody, but it does strengthen your position considerably. Then we do it, Noah said firmly. How quickly can you make it happen? Is tomorrow too soon? Elena's attempt at humor fell flat, her voice shaking. Patricia actually smiled. You'd need a license first. In North Carolina, there's no waiting period, but you need to apply in person. If you do that tomorrow, you could technically be married by the weekend. The reality of it hit them both. 4 days until they'd be married. Noah saw Elena's panic rising and squeezed her hand. We don't have to No. We do this. Elena's voice was steadier now, determination replacing fear. We do this right, not some courthouse rush job, something real. Elena, there's no time. Then we make time. Beach wedding, sunset, just us and the girls and whoever we want there. Nothing fancy, but something that feels like choosing each other, not just surviving him. Patricia nodded approvingly. Smart. If this goes to court, you'll want photos, evidence that this was a genuine celebration, not a panicked legal maneuver. They left the lawyer's office in a daze. In the parking lot, Elena turned to Noah with wild eyes. Did we just decide to get married in 4 days? I think we did. This is insane. Completely. She started laughing, slightly hysterical, but genuine. We're actually doing this. Noah pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers. We're actually doing this. Are you okay? Ask me again in 4 days. I will. Every day after that, too. She kissed him then, deep and certain, and for a moment the fear receded. They were two broken people making an impossible choice, but they were making it together, and that had to count for something. The next 3 days were chaos. They got the marriage license, told the girls, planned a small ceremony on the beach. Lily was ecstatic, already calling Mia her sister. Mia was quieter but cautiously happy, asking Elena repeatedly if this meant Noah was staying forever. Forever, Elena promised, hoping desperately she could keep it. Mrs. Chen agreed to stand witness. Patricia would be there too, partly as a friend, but mostly to document everything for the inevitable court case. Noah's brother flew in from Virginia, shocked but supportive. Elena's parents called. She'd finally told them about leaving Caleb, crying with relief that she'd found someone good. On the morning of the wedding, Noah woke early and walked to the beach alone. The sun was just rising, painting the water in shades of gold and pink. In 3 months, this coastline had become home in a way nowhere else ever had. Because of her. Because of them. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. This is quite the show you're putting on. Caleb's voice was smooth poison. Rushing into marriage days after my petition. You think a judge won't see through that? Noah's jaw tightened. How did you get this number? Please. I have resources you can't imagine. Did she tell you about her instability, her documented issues? Her history of everything she's been through was because of you. Noah cut him off coldly. And the only thing any judge will see is a mother who's built a safe, stable life for her daughter. With me. With you. Caleb laughed. A widow playing house with someone else's family. How long until you realize she's broken goods? Until you get tired of fixing someone else's damage? I'm not fixing her. She's not broken. And the only damage here came from you. Strong words. Let's see if you still feel that way when I'm done. When I have my daughter back and Elena's alone again, crying about how another man abandoned her. When you've moved on to someone less complicated and she's... Noah hung up. His hand shook with rage. Caleb was trying to get in his head, plant doubt, make him second guess. Classic manipulation tactics from a textbook abuser. He wouldn't work. Noah walked back to his house, where Lily was still sleeping, and Elena would be arriving in a few hours to get ready. They were doing this. Making it real. Making it legal. Making it impossible for Caleb to claim instability when what they had was the most stable thing in Noah's life since Sarah died. The ceremony was scheduled for sunset. By noon, the house was controlled chaos. Lily and Mia running around in their flower girl dresses, Mrs. Chen fussing over flowers, Patricia setting up her camera. Noah's brother helped him with his tie, asking quietly if he was sure about this. "More sure than I've been about anything in a long time," Noah answered honestly. Elena was getting ready at her place. Noah wasn't allowed to see her. Mrs. Chen had insisted on at least some tradition, so he waited, nervous in a way he hadn't expected. This was his second marriage. It should feel easier. Instead, it felt bigger somehow, weighted with everything they were fighting for. At 5:30, they gathered on the beach. Just 12 people total. Immediate family, close friends, witnesses. The officiant was a local pastor who'd agreed to the rushed timeline when he heard their story. He kept it simple, personal, focused on the commitment they were making. When Elena appeared, walking across the sand with Mia's hand in hers and Lily on her other side, Noah forgot how to breathe. She wore a simple white dress, nothing fancy, just a sundress she'd bought 2 days ago, but she looked radiant. Her hair was down, catching the sunset light. She wore no veil, no traditional accessories, just the same small smile she'd given him that first morning on the beach, when he'd understood her in ways no one else had. Caleb had tried to make her small. Noah would spend the rest of his life reminding her she was infinite. She reached him, the girls taking their places beside them, and the ceremony began. The words were traditional, for better or worse in sickness and health, but the weight behind them was anything but. This was a promise made in defiance, a commitment forged in crisis, a choice to believe in something good when everything suggested they should be afraid. When the pastor asked for the rings, Lily and Mia stepped forward with matching grins, presenting simple gold bands they'd helped pick out. Noah slid his onto Elena's finger with shaking hands. "I promise to show up," he said quietly, the vows they'd written the night before. "Every day. In every way. To believe in you when you can't believe in yourself. To fight beside you, not for you. To love you and Mia as fiercely as I love Lily. To build a life where all of us feel safe." Elena's voice broke on her vows. "I promise to try. To trust when trust feels impossible. To let you in when every instinct says to protect myself. To be brave enough to choose this. Choose us, even when I'm terrified. To love you and Lily with everything I'm learning to believe I deserve." The pastor pronounced them married as the sun touched the horizon, and when Noah kissed his wife, he tasted salt from the ocean, from her tears, from his own. It was messy and imperfect, and absolutely real. Lily and Mia cheered. Mrs. Chen cried. Patricia snapped photos documenting everything. And for one perfect moment, Caleb Moore's threats felt very far away. The reception was pizza on the beach and a small cake Mrs. Chen had made. The girls ran wild while the adults drank cheap champagne from plastic cups. Noah's brother toasted them with words about second chances and blended families. Patricia quietly promised Elena they'd gotten everything they needed for court. As darkness fell and the party wound down, Noah and Elena found themselves alone by the water while the others watched the girls near the house. They stood close, fingers intertwined, watching the waves crash in endless rhythm. "We did it," Elena whispered. "We did." "Are you scared?" "Terrified. You?" "Absolutely." She leaned into him. "But less than I was alone." "That's something." "Noah, thank you. For this, for all of it." He kissed her temple. "You don't have to thank me for loving you. Still, thank you." They stayed like that until Mia's voice called out, and real life reasserted itself. There was no honeymoon, no dramatic exit. They'd planned to keep the girls at Noah's house for the night, a family sleepover to start their new configuration. Getting 2 excited girls to sleep was nearly impossible, but eventually, exhaustion won. Lily and Mia curled up together in Lily's bed, already sisters in every way that mattered. Noah and Elena checked on them one last time, then retreated to the living room. "So," Elena said, sitting on the couch, "we're married. Legally and everything. Caleb's going to lose his mind when he finds out." "Good. Let him." Elena's laugh was shaky. "I keep waiting for it to feel real. Give it time." "We don't have time. The custody hearing is in 3 weeks." Noah sat beside her, pulled her close. Then we make the most of what we have. We document stability. We show up as a united front. We prove to whatever judge we get that Mia belongs here. Well, what if it's not enough? Then we appeal. We fight harder. We don't give up. He tilted her face toward his. But Elena, you need to start believing we can win this. Caleb's power was always in making you doubt yourself. Don't give him that anymore. She nodded, trying to absorb his certainty. Okay, you're right. Say it. What? Say we're going to win this. Noah, say it, even if you don't believe it yet. Elena took a shaky breath. We're going to win this. Again. We're going to win this. Stronger this time. One more time. We're going to win this. And this time she almost sounded convinced. They sat together in the quiet house, listening to the ocean through open windows and the soft breathing of sleeping children down the hall. Two broken people who'd somehow found each other in the wreckage. Two families that had become one. Two futures that depended on convincing strangers their love was real. The fight was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. Caleb would come at them with everything he had: lawyers, money, manipulation, lies. The court system would scrutinize every aspect of their relationship, looking for cracks. But sitting there with Elena in his arms and their daughters safe down the hall, Noah felt something he hadn't felt in months: hope. Not the desperate, grasping kind that came from denial, but the quiet, steady kind that came from choosing to believe in something despite the odds. They'd survived everything that had brought them to this moment: grief, abuse, loss, fear. They'd found each other in the chaos and built something worth protecting. And they'd keep building it, day by day, choice by choice, until it was strong enough to withstand whatever Caleb threw at them. Outside, the ocean roared its eternal rhythm. Inside, a new family slept under one roof. And somewhere in between those two truths, Noah and Elena held on to each other and prepared for the war ahead. Together, just like they'd promised. The morning after the wedding, Noah woke to find Elena's side of the bed empty. Panic flashed through him before he heard voices from the kitchen. Lily's bright chatter, Mia's quieter responses, Elena's soft laughter. The sounds of a family mourning. His family now. He found them making pancakes, or attempting to. Flour dusted every surface. Lily had batter on her nose. Mia was carefully cracking eggs under Elena's supervision. Elena looked up when he entered, and something vulnerable crossed her face. "Morning, husband," she said, testing the word. "Morning, wife." It felt strange and right all at once. Lily launched herself at him. "Daddy, we're making breakfast for you and Elena because you got married. I can see that. Looks delicious." Mia approached more slowly, holding up an egg. "I cracked 3 without getting shells in it." Noah crouched down to her level. "That's amazing, Mia. You're getting really good at this." She smiled, still tentative but warmer than before. "Is it okay if I call you Noah Dad? Lily said I could have a dad name for you, but I don't know if I should call you Dad yet because my other dad might get mad." The question broke something in Noah's chest. He glanced at Elena, who had tears in her eyes, then back at Mia. "You can call me whatever feels right to you. Noah Dad sounds perfect, and you don't have to worry about making anyone mad, okay? This is your house. You're safe here." "Okay?" She hugged him quickly, then ran back to the stove. Elena mouthed thank you over the girls' heads. Noah just nodded, his throat too tight to speak. This was what they were protecting, this fragile, beautiful thing they were building. Caleb could bring his lawyers and his money and his manipulation, but he couldn't take this away unless they let him. The pancakes were lumpy and some were burned, but they ate every bite like they were gourmet. Afterward, while the girls played in the yard, Elena and Noah sat on the porch with coffee, watching them through the window. "Patricia called," Elena said quietly. "Caleb's lawyers filed a motion to expedite the custody hearing. They're claiming I'm creating an unstable environment by rushing into marriage with a stranger." Noah's jaw tightened. "We knew he'd do this." "Knowing it and living it are different things." She stared at her coffee. "The hearing's in 2 weeks now, and Patricia says we need to prepare for them to come at us hard. They'll question our relationship timeline, your fitness as a stepfather, my judgment, everything. Then we tell the truth. We fell in love. We're building a life. We got married. In 3 months, Noah, people will say we barely know each other." My grandparents got engaged on their third date. They were married 62 years before my grandmother died. He took her hand. Time doesn't measure love. Commitment does. Elena nodded, but doubt shadowed her eyes. Noah recognized the look. Caleb's voice in her head, years of conditioning telling her she didn't deserve this, that it would fall apart, that she was making everything worse. Hey, he waited until she looked at him. What are you thinking? That maybe he's right, that I'm being selfish, that I should just give him partial custody and avoid the fight. You don't believe that, don't I? Look at what I'm putting you through. You shouldn't have to deal with this mess. You have Lily to think about. Lily's thriving. She has a sister now. She has you. Don't use my daughter as an excuse to run. I'm not running. You're thinking about it. I can see it. Noah's voice was gentle but firm. Elena, this is what he does. He makes you doubt yourself until you make his choices for him. But you left him. You built a life. You found people who love you. Don't let him take that away now. What if we lose anyway? What if I put us through this nightmare and he still gets shared custody? Then at least we fought. At least we showed Mia we didn't give up on her. Elena's breath shuddered out. I'm so scared. I know. But you're also the bravest person I've ever met, and you're not doing this alone. She leaned against him, and they sat like that until Lily's voice called them to come see something the girls had found. A dead jellyfish, as it turned out, which required careful explanation about ocean life and the circle of death and rebirth. Normal parenting stuff that felt surreal given everything else happening. That afternoon, Caleb's lawyer called Elena's phone directly. A power move that violated protocol but achieved its goal of rattling her. Patricia handled it, but the message was clear. Caleb was escalating. He wanted Elena to know he was coming for her with everything he had. The next 2 weeks were brutal. Patricia prepared them for deposition, running through every question Caleb's lawyers might ask. She was thorough and merciless, poking holes in their story, challenging their timeline, forcing them to defend choices that felt obvious to them but would seem reckless to strangers. Why did you get married so quickly? She asked for the dozenth time. Because we love each other, Elena answered, her voice strained. Not good enough. They'll say you barely know each other, that it's a legal maneuver. It's both, Noah said. We love each other, and we got married faster than we might have otherwise because of Caleb's petition. That doesn't make our marriage fake. Prove it. Show me evidence of your relationship before the petition. They pulled out everything, photos from beach walks, text messages, receipts from dinners, Mrs. Chen's testimony about how often they'd been together. It felt invasive, reducing their relationship to documentation, but it was necessary. The night before the hearing, neither of them could sleep. They lay in bed staring at the ceiling while down the hall, both girls slept peacefully in Lily's room. They decided not to tell Mia about the hearing. She was already anxious enough without knowing tomorrow would determine her future. What if I break down on the stand? Elena whispered. What if I cry or freeze or he looks at me and I just shut down like I used to? Then I'll be right there. You'll look at me and remember you're not alone. What if that's not enough? Noah rolled to face her. Listen to me. Tomorrow, they're going to try to tear you apart. They're going to paint you as unstable, irresponsible, a bad mother. And it's going to hurt, but none of it's true. You're the strongest person in that courtroom. You're a survivor. You're a mother who gave up everything to protect her daughter. You hold on to that. I don't feel strong. You don't have to feel it. You just have to be it. Elena's eyes filled with tears. What if I lose her, Noah? What if after everything, he still wins? We don't think about that tonight. Tonight we rest. Tomorrow we fight. She nodded, but sleep didn't come. They held each other in the darkness, listening to the ocean and the quiet house, and tried to find courage for what was coming. Morning arrived gray and cold. Noah made breakfast while Elena got ready, her movements mechanical. She put on a conservative navy dress Patricia had helped her pick. Professional, motherly, nothing Caleb could use against her. She pulled her hair back, minimal makeup, small earrings, armor of a different kind than the red bikini. Lily and Mia ate cereal, oblivious to the tension. Mrs. Chen arrived to watch them, giving Elena a fierce hug. "You've got this," the older woman said firmly. "That man doesn't deserve her, and the judge will see it." Elena could only nod, too nervous to speak. The courthouse was intimidating, all marble and echoing hallways and serious faces. Patricia met them outside, ran through last-minute instructions. Caleb was already inside with his legal team, 3 lawyers in expensive suits projecting confidence and resources. When they entered the courtroom, Caleb turned to look. He'd perfected the role. Concerned father, well-groomed, appropriately worried. His eyes locked on Elena, and Noah felt her stiffen beside him. Years of conditioning, of fear, rising up despite everything. Noah took her hand, squeezed. She squeezed back, anchoring herself. The judge entered, a woman in her late 50s named Judge Sarah Brennan, known for being fair but no nonsense. Both sides presented their cases. Caleb's lawyer went first, painting a picture of a devoted father denied access to his daughter by a vindictive ex-wife who'd fled without cause and was now using a hasty marriage to create false stability. "Mr. Moore has been seeking contact with his daughter for over a year," the lawyer said smoothly. "He sent letters, gifts, child support, all returned or ignored. When he finally made contact, he found his daughter living with a stranger, a man Ms. Moore married mere days after my client filed for visitation. This isn't stability. This is desperation." Patricia countered hard. "Ms. Reed, formerly Moore, left an abusive marriage. We have documentation of controlling behavior, emotional abuse, and concerning incidents involving the child. She didn't flee without cause. She fled for safety, and her marriage to Mr. Reed isn't hasty. It's the natural progression of a relationship built over months of careful, thoughtful courtship. They didn't rush into marriage. They formalized a commitment they'd already made." Back and forth it went, each side presenting their version of reality. Then came the testimony. Caleb went first, playing his part perfectly. He spoke about missing his daughter, about wanting to be involved in her life, about Elena's refusal to communicate. He was measured, reasonable, everything an abusive manipulator looked like when performing for an audience. "I love my daughter," he said, his voice thick with manufactured emotion. "I made mistakes in my marriage. I admit that. But I never stopped being her father. And seeing her living with a stranger, calling another man dad while I'm shut out, it's devastating." Noah's hands clenched. The manipulation was textbook. Admit to vague mistakes while painting himself as the victim, making Elena look like the villain keeping father and daughter apart. Then it was Elena's turn. She took the stand with shaking hands, and Noah saw her fighting not to look at Caleb, not to let him see her fear. Patricia led her through the questions gently. Their marriage, the timeline, why she'd left Caleb. "He was controlling," Elena said, her voice soft but steady. "At first I thought he was just protective, but it escalated. He monitored my phone, my emails, my friends, told me what to wear, how to act, who I could see. When I tried to leave the first time, he locked me in our bedroom for 3 days. Caleb's lawyer objected. "Hearsay. No evidence of this alleged imprisonment." "Sustained," Judge Brennan said. "Miss Reed, stick to what you can prove." Elena faltered, and Noah saw Caleb's small smile. This was what he'd counted on, that Elena couldn't prove most of what he'd done because he'd been too careful. But Patricia was ready. "Miss Reed, can you tell the court about the incident on March 12th, 2024? Elena's breath caught. Noah didn't know this story. Caleb came home early and found Mia crying. She'd spilled juice on his briefcase accidentally. He didn't hit her, but he made her stand in the corner for 3 hours. Wouldn't let her use the bathroom. When I tried to intervene, he told me I was raising her to be weak and useless. That's when I knew I had to leave. And did you document this? I took photos of Mia afterward. She'd wet herself because he wouldn't let her use the bathroom. She was 5 years old. The courtroom went very quiet. Patricia submitted the photos into evidence. Caleb's lawyer tried to object, tried to claim they proved nothing, but Judge Brennan's expression had shifted. Caleb's lawyer went after Elena hard during cross-examination, questioned her employment history, her judgment, her rushed marriage. You married Mr. Reed how long after my client filed for visitation? 4 days after we received the petition. 4 days. That's quite convenient timing. It wasn't about convenience. You barely knew this man. 3 months of acquaintance and suddenly you're married? That seems impulsive at best, manipulative at worst. It wasn't manipulative. We love each other. Love or legal strategy? Elena's composure cracked. How dare you? Reed, isn't it true you have no job, no independent income, that you're completely dependent on your new husband financially? Just as you were dependent on my client. That's not, I'm looking for work. You just needed to secure a provider before losing your daughter. Understandable, perhaps, but hardly evidence of stable judgment. Patricia objected. Judge Brennan sustained it, but the damage was done. Elena left the stand looking shattered, and Noah wanted to break something. They called Noah next. Caleb's lawyer tried to paint him as unstable too, a widower looking for a ready-made family to replace what he'd lost, ignoring red flags because he was lonely. Mr. Reed, you lost your wife 7 weeks before meeting Miss Moore, correct? Yes. 7 weeks. Barely 2 months of grieving before jumping into a new relationship. Don't you think that's rather quick? Noah kept his voice level. Grief doesn't follow a timeline. And I didn't jump into anything. I got to know Elena slowly, carefully. We built something real. Real enough to marry after 3 months? To take on her daughter, her legal troubles, her extremely complicated situation? Real enough to commit to fight for. Yes. Even though you barely know her? Even though she could be using you? Noah looked the lawyer dead in the eye. Elena isn't using me. She's surviving, and I'm honored to be part of that survival. How noble. Tell me, Mr. Reed, has Mrs. Moore told you everything about her marriage, about why it really ended? She's told me enough. Enough, or what she wanted you to know? What if I told you my client has documentation suggesting Miss Moore was the unstable one? That she had restraining orders filed against her? Noah's blood ran cold. Patricia stood. Objection. That's a complete fabrication. Is it? Caleb's lawyer smiled. I have police reports from 2023 where neighbors called about domestic disturbances, where Ms. Moore was described as hysterical, out of control. Patricia was furious. Those reports were Caleb Moore gaslighting her, making her react so he could call the police and document her instability. Judge Brennan held up a hand. Enough! I'll review all documentation in chambers. Mr. Reed, you're dismissed. Noah left the stand feeling sick. He'd known Caleb was smart, but this level of calculation was terrifying. Years of building a case, creating false evidence, setting traps. How did you fight someone who thought this many steps ahead? The hearing continued for 3 more hours. Witnesses testified. Mrs. Chen spoke about Elena's devotion as a mother. Noah's brother talked about seeing Lily thrive with her new sister. Caleb brought his own witnesses, colleagues who testified to his character, a therapist who'd seen Mia once and said she seemed anxious around her mother. It was all lies and manipulation and legal theater, and Noah wanted to scream that none of it mattered, that what mattered was Mia was safe and happy and healing. But the law didn't care about that. The law cared about evidence and documentation and which story sounded more credible. Finally, Judge Brennan called a recess. I need time to review everything presented today. We'll reconvene in 3 days for my decision. 3 days. 72 hours of not knowing whether they'd won or lost, whether Mia would stay safe or be forced into visitation with the man who'd helped make her afraid of her own shadow. They left the courthouse in silence. Patricia tried to offer reassurance. They'd made a strong case. The photos of Mia were damning. Judge Brennan seemed to see through Caleb's performance, but nothing could touch the fear. When they got home, Mrs. Chen had the girls at the beach. Noah and Elena collapsed on the couch, emotionally destroyed. I froze, Elena whispered. On the stand, when he looked at me, I froze, just like I used to. You didn't. You held your ground. I let his lawyer tear me apart, made us look like exactly what Caleb wanted, desperate people faking stability. We're not faking anything. How do we know? Elena's voice rose. How do we know we're not just 2 broken people playing house? What if we're kidding ourselves? Noah had been waiting for this, the fear and stress finding outlet in doubt. Because when I look at you, I don't see broken. I see someone who survived hell and came out fighting. Because those girls down there are thriving. Because what we have is real, no matter what some lawyer says in a courtroom. What if it's not enough? What if being real doesn't matter? Then we appeal. We fight harder. But Elena, you can't let him in your head. That's how he wins. She was crying now, weeks of held-back terror pouring out. I'm so tired of fighting. I'm so tired of being strong. I just want it to be over. Noah pulled her close, let her break against him. I know, but we're almost there. 3 more days. We can survive 3 more days. Can we? We have to. They sat like that until the girls came home, sandy and happy and oblivious to how close their world was to shattering. Elena pulled herself together, made dinner, played pretend that everything was fine. Noah watched her perform normalcy and loved her more for it, for protecting Mia from the fear, for choosing strength even when she felt hollowed out. That night, after the girls were asleep, Elena stood in the bathroom staring at herself in the mirror. Noah found her there, still in her courtroom dress, makeup smudged from crying. I don't recognize myself anymore, she said quietly. The woman who stayed with him for 8 years feels like a stranger, but so does this version, the one fighting back. I don't know who I am in between. Noah stood behind her, meeting her eyes in the mirror. You're someone becoming, someone healing. You don't have to know who you are yet. You just have to keep choosing to find out. She leaned back against him. What if we lose? We don't think about that tonight. When do we think about it? Never if I can help it. But Elena, he turned her to face him. Even if the worst happens, even if he gets partial custody, we don't give up. We document everything. We stay vigilant. We keep Mia safe however we can. And if he tries to take her completely, that won't happen. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise I'll fight beside you until there's nothing left to fight with. I can promise you're not alone. I can promise that whatever comes, we face it together. Elena kissed him desperately, and they made love that night like people drowning, clinging to each other against the current trying to pull them under. Afterward, wrapped in tangled sheets, they didn't speak, just held on and tried to believe morning wouldn't come. But it did, and the day after, and the day after that. 72 hours that stretched like years, every minute weighted with waiting. On the morning of the decision, they returned to the courthouse. Caleb was already there, confident and composed. He caught Elena's eye and smiled, a predator's smile that made Noah's blood boil. Judge Brennan entered and the courtroom fell silent. I've reviewed all evidence and testimony, she began, her voice giving nothing away. This is a complicated case involving serious allegations and equally serious counterclaims. I've had to weigh credibility, documentation, and most importantly, the best interests of the child. Elena's hand found Noah's, squeezing so hard it hurt. Mr. Moore presents well, the judge continued. He's articulate, employed, stable. On paper, he seems like a devoted father seeking appropriate access to his daughter. Noah felt Elena start to shake. However, I'm troubled by several factors. The documented incident involving the child being forced to stand for 3 hours. The pattern of behavior described by Ms. Reed that, while difficult to prove definitively, aligns with classic abuse tactics. Most tellingly, the rushed timing of Mr. Moore's petition, only seeking visitation after Mrs. Reed established a new relationship, suggesting this is about control rather than genuine paternal concern. Caleb's expression flickered. As for Ms. Reed's marriage to Mr. Reed, while the timeline is admittedly fast, I see no evidence this is a legal maneuver. The documentation provided shows a genuine relationship that predates the custody petition. Moreover, I've seen nothing to suggest the child is unsafe or unhappy in her current situation. Quite the opposite. Elena was crying silently, still not sure which way this was going. Judge Brennan looked directly at Caleb. Mr. Moore, I'm denying your petition for visitation at this time. However, I'm leaving the door open for supervised visitation if you complete a co-parenting course and demonstrate consistent, appropriate contact over the next 6 months. Custody remains with Ms. Reed. The gavel fell. Elena collapsed against Noah, sobbing. They'd won. Mia was safe. Caleb couldn't take her. Across the courtroom, Caleb's mask finally slipped. Pure rage distorted his features before his lawyers ushered him out. He looked back once, his eyes promising this wasn't over, but for now, it was. Patricia was grinning. That was about as good as we could have hoped for. The supervised visitation clause keeps him from appealing immediately, but realistically, he won't complete those requirements. Men like him don't admit they need help. Elena couldn't speak, could only cry and hold on to Noah like he was the only solid thing in a spinning world. They left the courthouse into brilliant sunshine that felt like victory. In 3 days, they'd tell Mia. For now, they'd just breathe. They'd survived, together, just like they promised. The 3 days between the court decision and telling Mia felt like living in a held breath. Elena moved through the hours in a strange fog. Relief and residual fear tangled so tightly she couldn't separate them. She'd won. Mia was safe. But some part of her kept waiting for Caleb to appear, to find a loophole, to take it all away. Noah watched her carefully, recognizing the signs of someone who'd been in survival mode so long, she didn't know how to stand down. On the second night, he found her sitting on the porch at 2 a.m., staring at nothing. "Can't sleep?" he asked, settling beside her with a blanket. "Every time I close my eyes, I see him. In the courtroom. That look he gave us when we left." She pulled the blanket tighter. "He's not done, Noah. The judge said he could try again in 6 months. He won't." Patricia was right. Men like Caleb don't admit they need help. His ego won't let him complete those requirements. You don't know him like I do. He's patient, calculating. He could wait 6 months, play the part, come back stronger. Noah didn't argue because she might be right. Instead, he said, "Then we'll deal with it in 6 months. But Elena, you can't live the next half year in fear of something that might not happen. You'll miss everything good in between." "I don't know how to not be afraid anymore." "Yes, you do. You do it every morning when you get up. Every time you let yourself be happy. Every moment you choose to trust this instead of waiting for it to fall apart." He took her hand. "The fear doesn't go away. You just get better at living alongside it." Elena leaned into him, and they sat in the darkness until dawn started breaking. When the sun rose, painting the ocean in shades of gold, she finally said, "Okay, I'll try." That afternoon, they sat down with Mia and Lily in the living room. The girls sensed something was coming. They'd been whispering to each other all morning, shooting worried glances at the adults. "Are you getting unmarried?" Lily asked bluntly. Noah almost laughed at the directness. "No, sweetheart, the opposite. We have good news." Elena pulled Mia onto her lap, and the 6-year-old went willingly but tensely. "Baby, remember how your father wanted to see you?" Mia's whole body went rigid. "Do I have to go?" "No. The judge said you get to stay here, with me and Noah and Lily. He can't make you go anywhere." For a moment, Mia didn't react. Then her face crumpled and she started crying, huge, gasping sobs that shook her small frame. Elena held her tight while Lily climbed up beside them, patting Mia's back with the gentle concern of a sister. "It's okay now," Lily whispered. "You're safe. Nobody's taking you away." The crying went on for almost 20 minutes, weeks of fear pouring out all at once. When Mia finally quieted, she looked up at Elena with red, puffy eyes. "Really? I don't have to see him ever?" "Not unless you want to. And right now you don't have to decide anything. You're home. You're staying home." Mia turned to Noah. "And you're staying too?" Noah's throat tightened. "I'm staying. I promised, remember?" "Forever?" "Forever." Mia launched herself at him, and Noah caught her, holding this brave little girl who'd been through too much but was finally safe. Over her head, his eyes met Elena's, and what passed between them needed no words. They'd done it. Against impossible odds, they'd protected their daughter, both their daughters now. That night, after the girls were asleep, Noah and Elena finally allowed themselves to fall apart. They'd been holding it together for days, staying strong for Mia, but alone in their bedroom, the dam broke. Elena sobbed against Noah's chest while he held her, his own tears falling silent into her hair. They cried for everything they'd survived, everything they'd feared, everything they'd almost lost. They cried until there was nothing left, until exhaustion pulled them under into the first real sleep either had gotten in weeks. The next few weeks were adjustment. Elena kept expecting Caleb to show up, to call, to make some move, but there was only silence. Patricia confirmed he hadn't filed any motions, hadn't started the required co-parenting course, hadn't done anything but return to his life in Charlotte like Mia had never existed. He's cutting his losses, Patricia explained during a follow-up call. Men like him don't fight battles they can't control. The judge saw through him. You have documentation, and continuing would only make him look worse. He's done. Elena wanted to believe it. Some days she could. Other days, the fear crept back in, whispering that it couldn't be this easy, that Caleb always had another move. But life kept happening around her anxiety. Mia started second grade at Lily's school, nervous but excited. She made friends slowly, stopped flinching at loud noises, started laughing more freely. The nightmares that had plagued her for months became less frequent, then rare, then almost non-existent. Lily thrived having a sister. They were opposites in temperament. Lily, bold and outgoing, Mia quiet and thoughtful. But they balanced each other perfectly. Noah would find them curled up together reading or building elaborate blanket forts, or teaching each other songs from their respective childhoods before they'd become sisters. Elena found work as a bookkeeper for a local nonprofit, something part-time that let her be present for school pickups and sick days but gave her financial independence. The first paycheck she earned, she stared at it for a full minute before showing Noah. "I know it's not much. It's everything," he said, understanding what she meant. Independence. Proof she could stand on her own even while choosing to stand with him. They fell into routines. Beach walks every morning before school, now all four of them together. Friday movie nights. Sunday pancake breakfasts where the girls tried increasingly ambitious recipes. Small rituals that built something bigger than the sum of their parts. A family formed not by blood or obligation, but by choice and survival and love that had earned its right to exist. 3 months after the custody hearing, Elena wore the red bikini again. She hadn't planned to. It had been hanging in the closet untouched since before the wedding, a symbol of defiance that felt unnecessary now. But one morning in late March, with spring warming the coast and the girls sleeping in, she pulled it on and walked to the beach alone. Noah found her there 20 minutes later, standing by the water exactly as she had that first morning. "Felt like visiting an old friend?" he asked, approaching carefully. Elena smiled without turning. "Something like that. I wanted to see how it felt." "And?" "Different. That first time I wore it because I was trying to convince myself I wasn't what he said I was, trying to prove something. And now?" She finally looked at him. "Now I know what I am. I don't need to prove anything." Noah wrapped his arms around her from behind, and they stood watching the waves crash in their endless rhythm. "So what does the bikini mean now?" "That I can wear red in March if I want to, that my body is mine, that I survived." She leaned back against him. "That I found someone who saw me the first time and didn't need me to be anything but what I was." "Pretty sure you're the one who saw me," Noah murmured. "Broken widower stumbling through the days. You made me want to be alive again." "We're quite the pair of disasters. The best kind." They stayed like that until the girls' voices called from the house, hungry for breakfast and oblivious to the significance of this moment. Just another morning in their new normal. But later that week, something shifted. Elena was picking the girls up from school when she saw a black SUV in the parking lot. Her heart stopped, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard they went white. Caleb. He'd come back. He'd found them. But when the driver's side door opened, a soccer mom emerged, loading kids and equipment. Not Caleb. Just a car. Just her trauma making connections that weren't there. Elena sat in the pickup line, shaking, trying to breathe through the panic attack. By the time the girls got to the car, she'd pulled herself mostly together, but Mia knew. "Are you okay, Mom?" "I'm fine, baby. Just tired." But she wasn't fine. That night she barely slept. The next day she jumped at every car that drove past. The fear she'd been managing came roaring back, and she hated herself for it. Caleb was gone. The court case was over. Why couldn't she move on? Noah found her crying in the bathroom the third night, the panic attack in full force. "I can't do this," she gasped. "I can't keep living like this, waiting for him to come back." "Then let's make sure he can't." Noah's voice was calm, certain. "We'll move. Not far. Stay in the area so the girls don't have to change schools. But new house, new address he doesn't know. clean break. We can't just uproot everything. Why not? My lease is month to month, yours too. We've been talking about finding a place that's ours anyway, not just two rentals we're splitting time between. Elena stared at him. You'd do that? Leave the house where Sarah's not in the house. She's in my heart, in Lily, in the memories I'll always have. But Elena, this is our life now. You, me, the girls. We deserve a home that's ours. A fresh start. The idea terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. What if he finds us anyway? Then we deal with it. But at least we're not sitting here waiting for it. We're taking control back. They told Patricia, who approved and helped file the necessary paperwork to keep their new address confidential in court records. They told the girls, who were excited about a new adventure. They spent weekends house hunting, looking for something that could hold all four of them in their complicated history. They found it in April. A small house 2 towns over, close enough to keep the same schools, but far enough to feel like escape. 3 bedrooms, one for Noah and Elena, one for the girls to share since they insisted on it, and one for Noah's workshop. A yard with a tire swing, a porch that faced the ocean. The day they moved in, Lily and Mia ran through every room claiming spaces and planning decorations. Elena stood in the kitchen, their kitchen, and felt something settle in her chest that had been restless for years. This is really ours? She asked Noah. Every square inch. He pulled her close. No ghosts, no bad memories, just us. That night, they had pizza on the floor since the furniture wasn't all arranged yet. The girls were wired, too excited to sleep, running between rooms and giggling. Noah and Elena sat with their backs against the wall, watching their daughters play, and felt the enormity of what they'd built. We did it, Elena whispered. We did. I mean, really did it. Made a family. Made a life. Survived everything that tried to break us. Noah kissed her temple. You survived long before you met me. I just got lucky enough to be there when you decided to start living again. She turned to face him fully. Do you ever regret it? Taking on all my baggage, the court case, the fear, the complicated ex? You could have had an easier life. Not once, not even for a second. His voice was fierce. You and Mia didn't come into my life as baggage. You came as salvation. Lily and I were drowning in grief, going through motions. You taught us how to feel again. I think we taught each other. Yeah, we did. They kissed while the girls built a fort in the living room, and it felt like sealing a promise, not just the marriage vows from months ago, but something deeper. A commitment to keep choosing this, keep building this, keep fighting for this family they'd forged from broken pieces. Summer came. The girls turned 7 and 8 respectively, celebrated with a joint beach party that felt symbolic of how completely their lives had merged. Mia's confidence bloomed. She joined the school choir, made best friends with 2 girls in her class, stopped checking over her shoulder constantly. Elena went back to therapy, working through the trauma she'd carried. Some days were harder than others. She still had panic attacks occasionally, still flinched at unexpected sounds, still had moments where Caleb's voice echoed in her head. But the good days outnumbered the bad now, and she was learning to trust that. Noah dealt with his own healing. The grief over Sarah never disappeared, but it transformed into something less sharp. He could think about her without breaking, could tell Lily stories about her mother without crying, could honor what he'd had while embracing what he had now. They learned to be married, the real work of it, beyond the crisis that had rushed them to the altar. They fought sometimes, usually about small things blown large by stress, learned each other's triggers and sore spots, figured out how to apologize, how to compromise, how to choose each other even when it wasn't easy. Mrs. Chen visited often, delighted to see how the family had grown. She'd been right that first day when she'd given Elena that fierce hug. They'd made it. 6 months after the custody hearing, the deadline came and went. Caleb never completed the requirements, never filed for another petition. Patricia confirmed that legally he'd abandoned his parental rights through inaction. If he ever wanted custody now, he'd be starting from scratch with even less credibility. Elena waited for relief but found something else instead, a quiet kind of grief. Not for Caleb, but for what Mia had lost. The idea of a father, even if the reality had been terrible. She held Mia a little tighter that night. You okay, Mom? Mia asked, sensing the shift. I'm okay, Just loving you. I love you too. And Noah, Dad, and Lily. We're a good family. The best family. Do you think my other dad misses me? The question surprised Elena. I don't know, baby. Maybe. But missing someone and knowing how to love them are different things. Mia thought about this. Noah, Dad knows how to love me. He does. Can I just call him Dad now, without the Noah part? Elena's eyes stung. Have you asked him? Not yet. I wanted to ask you first. Sweetheart, you can call him whatever feels right. I think he'd be honored. That weekend, completely out of the blue during breakfast, Mia looked up from her pancakes and said, Dad, can you pass the syrup? Noah froze, the word hitting him like a physical thing. He looked at Elena, who nodded through tears, then at Mia, who watched him nervously. Of course I can, sweetheart, he managed, his voice rough. Lily cheered. Finally, I've been waiting forever for you guys to figure that out. Just like that, it was settled. Noah was Dad. Not Noah Dad or anything hyphenated. Just Dad, in all the ways that mattered. Autumn arrived, and with it, a year since Noah and Elena had first met on that beach. They marked the anniversary quietly, just the two of them, walking the same stretch of sand in the early morning. You wore red that day, Noah said, remembering. I was trying so hard to be brave. You were brave. You are brave. Elena smiled. We both were. Are. Two terrified people who decided to risk it anyway. Best decision I ever made. Oh, even with everything it brought? Especially because of everything it brought. You, Mia, this family, this life. He stopped walking, pulled her close. Elena Reed. I would do it all again. Every hard moment, every terrifying choice, every impossible obstacle. Because it brought me here. She kissed him with the ocean roaring behind them, and it felt like coming full circle. From strangers watching each other across the sand to this, married, merged, making a life that neither of them could have imagined a year ago. When they got home, the girls were making breakfast with Mrs. Chen's supervision, attempting the same pancake recipe from that first morning after the wedding. The kitchen was a disaster. The smoke alarm was beeping. Lily had batter in her hair. It was perfect. That night, after the girls were asleep, Noah found Elena on the porch. She'd pulled on an old sweatshirt against the October chill, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked peaceful in a way she hadn't when he'd first known her. The armor finally set down. Penny for your thoughts? He asked, settling beside her. Just thinking about the woman I was a year ago, how scared I was, how broken I felt. You were never broken. I believed I was. That's what mattered. She leaned into him. But somehow you saw something else. Saw me when I couldn't see myself. You did the same for me. Saw past the grief to who I could be again. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the waves and the quiet house behind them. Inside, their daughters slept safely. Around them, a life they'd built from wreckage held strong. Ahead, an unknown future that didn't scare them quite as much as it used to. You know what the best part is? Elena said eventually. What's that? We don't have to keep surviving anymore. We get to just live. Noah pulled her closer. Yeah, we do. 2 months later, right before Christmas, Elena had something to tell him. She'd suspected for a few weeks, confirmed it that morning, spent the whole day figuring out how to share the news. They were in a good place, but this would change everything. Again. She found him in his workshop after the girls were in bed, sanding a bookshelf he was building for Mia's room. He looked up when she entered, immediately reading her expression. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I'm just... She took a breath. I'm pregnant. Noah set down the sandpaper very carefully. You're about 8 weeks. I know we didn't plan this, and things are just settling down, and if you're not ready... He crossed to her in 3 strides, kissing her hard enough to steal her breath. When he pulled back, his eyes were bright with tears. Are you kidding? Elena, this is incredible. You're not scared? Terrified. But the good kind of terrified. The kind that means something matters. He placed a hand on her still flat stomach. We're having a baby. We're having a baby, she echoed, and started crying. Happy tears this time, the kind that felt like release instead of pain. They told the girls on Christmas morning, wrapped up as the best present either could ask for. Lily screamed with joy. Mia's smile was quieter, but just as bright. A sister or brother? Lily asked immediately. We don't know yet, Noah said. Won't find out for a few more weeks. I hope it's a sister, Mia said shyly. Then Lily and I can teach her everything. What if it's a brother? Noah asked. Then we'll teach him too, but differently. They spent the rest of Christmas Day planning nursery colors and debating names, the girls' excitement infectious. Elena watched her family, because that's what they were now, undeniably, and felt something she'd thought Caleb had taken from her forever. Pure, uncomplicated joy. The pregnancy wasn't easy. Morning sickness lasted well into the second trimester. Elena's anxiety spiked, worried something would go wrong, that she'd lose this too. But Noah was patient, talking her down from panic attacks, accompanying her to every appointment, believing for both of them when her faith wavered. At 20 weeks, they found out they were having a boy. Noah cried. Elena cried. The girls started planning how to share their room so the baby could have his own space eventually. We should probably get a bigger house, Noah said that night. This one's barely ours yet. I know, but think about it. 4 kids in 3 bedrooms. My workshop and what should be a guest room. We're bursting at the seams. Elena considered. The idea of moving again felt exhausting, but he was right. They needed more space. And maybe that was okay. Maybe building a bigger life to hold their growing family was exactly what they should be doing. They found a house that summer, right before Elena's due date. 4 bedrooms, a real yard, close to the beach they'd claimed as their own. Moving with a heavily pregnant woman and 2 energetic girls was chaos, but they managed. Samuel Noah Reed was born on a Tuesday in August, screaming his arrival with impressive lung capacity. He had Elena's dark hair and Noah's gray eyes, and from the moment they placed him in her arms, Elena understood what people meant when they talked about healing. This baby represented everything Caleb had tried to destroy: her autonomy, her joy, her right to build a life on her own terms. Samuel was living proof that she'd won. The girls were smitten. They fought over who got to hold him, took turns helping with bottles and diaper changes, treated him like a living doll they got to dress up and coo over. Watching Mia's gentleness with her baby brother, seeing how naturally she'd taken to being a big sister, Elena finally let go of the last thread of fear that Caleb's influence had permanently damaged her daughter. Mia was whole, healing, happy. They all were. The first year with Samuel was a blur of sleepless nights and new routines, of learning to parent an infant while managing 2 elementary schoolers. Noah cut back his hours to help more at home. Elena worked from home when possible, building a career that fit around their family instead of the other way around. It wasn't perfect. They were tired constantly. The house was always messy. They bickered about whose turn it was for the midnight feeding. Money was tighter with another mouth to feed. Some days Noah looked at his chaotic household and marveled that this was his life now. But it was good. Hard and exhausting and absolutely good. On Samuel's first birthday, they had another beach party. Bigger this time. Noah's brother and his family, Elena's parents who'd moved closer to be near their grandkids, Patricia and Mrs. Chen, friends the girls had made at school. A whole community that had formed around this family, built from broken pieces. Noah stood on the porch of their house, watching Elena supervise Samuel's first taste of birthday cake, while Lily and Mia led the other kids in some elaborate game. His family, his impossibly beautiful, complicated, perfect family. Quite a year, huh? Noah's brother came up beside him, beer in hand. Understatement of the century. I gotta admit, when you called me about the wedding, I thought you'd lost your mind. 3 months, custody battle, instant family, seemed like a disaster waiting to happen. Noah smiled. And now? Now I see what you saw. She's good for you? They're all good for you. I'm good for them too. Yeah, you are. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the party unfold. Then Noah's brother asked, Ever hear from the ex, Caleb? No, and I hope it stays that way. Think you will? Stay away? Noah considered. Truthfully, he didn't know. Men like Caleb sometimes came back, sometimes didn't, but he'd stopped letting that fear dictate their lives. If he does, we'll handle it. But I'm not wasting today worrying about tomorrow. Good man. Later that night, after the guests had left and the girls were asleep and Samuel was down in his crib, Noah and Elena returned to the beach. It had become their tradition. Whenever life felt overwhelming or particularly sweet, they'd walk the sand and remember. 2 years, Elena said, her hand in his. 2 years since that first morning. Feels like yesterday and forever ago at the same time. If you could go back and tell that version of yourself what was coming, would you? Noah thought about it. No, I don't think he would have believed it. Had to live it to understand. Me too. Elena stopped walking, turned to face the ocean. She was wearing jeans and a sweater. The red bikini retired to a drawer, no longer necessary. She'd proven everything she'd needed to prove. You know what I realized today? What's that? I'm happy. Not trying to be happy, not working toward happy. Just happy. When did that happen? Somewhere between the chaos and the crying and the sleepless nights, I guess. She laughed. Romance isn't dead. Hey, you married me for better or worse. This is the worst. Sleep deprivation, crayon on the walls, stepping on Legos in the dark. And the better? Noah pulled her close. This, you, them, every impossible moment that brought us here. She kissed him, soft and certain, and they stood wrapped together as the ocean crashed its endless song behind them. Two people who'd found each other in the wreckage and built something that refused to break. Behind them, the house glowed warm with light. Inside, 3 children slept safely. Around them, a life they'd earned through surviving and choosing and refusing to give up. Elena had worn red that first morning because she needed armor. Now she didn't need it anymore. She'd become the thing she'd been pretending to be, whole, strong, certain of her worth. Noah had been drowning in grief that first morning. Now he was anchored by love, for Sarah's memory, for Lily's future, for Elena and Mia and Samuel and the family they'd become. They'd both been broken. Now they were healing. Not fixed. Healing was ongoing, a choice they made every day to keep moving forward. But together, the weight was bearable. Together, the fear was manageable. Together, they were enough. Ready to go home? Noah asked. Elena smiled up at him. I am home. And she was. They both were. In each other, in their children, in the life they'd built from ashes and determination, and the terrifying courage it took to love again, after loss. They walked back to the house, hand in hand, leaving footprints in the sand that the tide would wash away. But it didn't matter. They'd made their mark in bigger ways. In the family they'd forged, the love they'd chosen, the future they were building one impossible day at a time. Behind them, the ocean roared. Ahead, their house waited. And between those two truths, Elena and Noah had found something neither expected but both desperately needed. Home. Not a place, but a people. Not a destination, but a choice they made every morning to keep showing up, keep fighting, keep loving. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.